Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Education Concierge Podcast, Season 4. Wow, y'all, this is going back quick and fast and in a hurry, but I am excited about today's guest. I met him many, many moons ago. Okay, well, not that many moons ago. We're not that old, but I met him in another lifetime when I was out in the Middle East. One, I will say, anybody that's scared to travel abroad or to live abroad, do not be scared at all. You will find a family, you will find like-minded people. And that's what I found when I went and lived in UAE. He is still there. I got sent home. I didn't get sent home. I came back. But I'm ready to go back whenever he's ready to invite me to come work. I have on here vetted. Y'all know we vet people to come to the cookout. Mr. Jeffrey Smith, he's going to introduce himself. But before he does that, I want y'all to understand that don't be scared to leave America and find your dream job and work for your company or start a company. And he is living proof to do that, and with an amazing family that he has with him over in the Middle East. Mr. Smith, welcome to the Education Concierge Podcast. Welcome to the family.
Thank you, Benita. Thanks for the invitation.
I appreciate it. Now, I'm a good old country girl, so you know in the country, the third time you come to the house, you got to fix your own plate.
Oh, yeah, I'm ready.
So here you go. Please introduce yourself to the family as part of the family and tell us who you are, what's your business, what's your profession, and what do you do?
Thank you, Benita. Thank you for the invitation once again. My name is Jeffrey Smith. I'm originally from Columbia, Maryland, a town in between Washington and in Baltimore. I work as the director of admissions for iCademy Middle East, and I'm also the director of the Knowledge Hub, and I'll explain a little bit more about that later in our conversation. iCademy Middle East is an online school, a U.S. curriculum online school that's been serving students throughout the GCC and the Middle East for about 15 years. Each year we enroll about 1,500 to 1,700 students and provide them what used to be an alternative, but is becoming more a mainstream way of educating children.
I love it. Now, for my guests who are not familiar with the acronyms for overseas, can you break down GCC for us?
It's the Gulf Corporation Council. I think I said that right. We say
Yes.
GCC so much, but I believe that's right. And it's comprised of let's see, Saudi Arabia, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Oman, Bahrain, and Kuwait. And am I leaving one out? I don't think so. I think those are the 5 states that make up the GCC, or the Gulf Corporation Council. And so they work together. The currencies are different, but they have very, very good alliances. I think the one I left out is Qatar.
Qatar. Okay, yes. Okay. So thank you for explaining that. So I'm just sitting here like, I love all of those places. So I want you to break down for us here, the podcast listeners, Knowledge Hub. What is that? And then just kind of tell us, because you said what's important to us, that the traditional way, being in the classroom from 8 to 3, going to school Monday through Friday, it has changed. I mean, I know you were already working on this pre-COVID, so you already had great enrollment pre-COVID, but how has it changed and shifted? And I can't say post-COVID because it's still here. It's going to be with us, but as we've adjusted to COVID being in our lives.
Yes. So the iCademy Middle East it's an online school. And what we've learned from online schooling is it just allows a lot more flexibility for students. They become the center of their learning. The traditional model of 25 students sitting in a classroom with a teacher delivering instruction and grading papers and everything is sort of a 20th century way of doing things. But when we look at the way everything has changed and sort of evolved, education, it's time for that to make an evolution also. So what we believe is that students should be able to have more ownership of their education. So we use a platform called Canvas, which is actually very popular in schools around you and universities, K to 12 and universities. Students have access to their learning 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So we have a lot of elite athletes, performing artists who don't necessarily need to be confined to a classroom 7 hours a day, when they can use private tutors and other resources in order to complete their work, complete their quizzes, show that mastery over various assignments and content, and move on and still have time to dedicate to other facets of their life. And of course, living internationally, we have a lot of 80% of Dubai is made up of expatriates, people who are from other places. So those families also don't need to be confined to school. To give you an example, we have a German family right now. The father fitted out a bus and turned it into like a mobile home, and they're actually traveling the world by bus.
My God.
I don't quite know how he's doing it, but he's figured it all out. And so the family have taken their children out of traditional school,
Yes.
enrolled them in iCademy Middle East, and they're going to take 14 months to explore the entire world by bus. What better education is there than that, to be able to tour the entire globe by bus with your family?
Oh my gosh. And I am a huge YouTube watcher, and I watch like tiny house building, and there are lots of families that are doing that more than ever before.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
getting RVs, they are turning buses, school buses. One couple literally took a like an old Greyhound bus. I was like,
yeah,
what is happening? But they are doing that, and
they are.
I appreciate Academy giving parents, guardians, the adults an alternative,
Hmm.
because all parents, guardians, and adults are not cut out to homeschool.
That's right.
And they don't want to homeschool, but they want to travel. Or I love that you said the athletes,
Hmm.
performers. I was just thinking about my girlfriend. Her daughter is now grown. She's a dancer now. But when she was younger, she took her out of school,
Hmm.
homeschooled her because she's an amazing dancer, to give her the opportunity to 8 o'clock. We're in the dance studio. I was like, girl, where? What's happening? I'm just thinking of the hockey players, parents of hockey players that I know, um, gymnasts. They have that crazy work schedule, and,
Yeah.
and like I said, parents. They might be corporate, or parents just don't want to homeschool. So Academy comes in to assist where they need to do the education part. Now, this is my question. I'm in
Mhm.
America. Is Academy accessible for me, or is it just? Or and I know you run. I'm gonna say run.
Mhm.
Might be on it. I know you run the Middle East section, but is it available in the United States yet?
There are online schools that are available in the United States. We are actually part of a much larger group called Pansophic Learning, that's
Okay.
based in the U.S., actually based in Northern Virginia. And they run charter schools. So what they enter into is partnerships with the public sector and offer services similar to this in a charter school setting throughout the United States. So I think many of your viewers will probably have heard of Pansophic or are familiar with one of the schools. Sometimes they're branded as Excel management schools. And going
Yes.
back to your remarks about homeschooling, homeschooling is really, as you mentioned, it's really not new. Some notable homeschool students of the past. Former President Barack Obama was homeschooled when his
Yes.
mother moved him to Indonesia for a time in his childhood. And for those of you who've read his books, he actually speaks about his
Hmm.
mother getting him up in the morning to get his lessons done. Michael Jackson was another homeschool
Hmm.
student, when he, of course, toured with his family. That became a way for him to get his education. And many gymnasts and performing artists over the years have been
Right.
um,
And I know, like, a lot
homeschooled
of
very
Disney artists,
successfully.
they always talk about how they were homeschooled,
Yeah,
and the tutor coming on set with them, and if they were doing a movie or a musical. So you're right.
yep,
And I am excited that parents and guardians and others are even looking at options that work best for their child, their
yes.
children, and the lifestyle they have, where education is no longer confined to a brick and mortar building.
No, no, it doesn't need to be. And for some parents who need that structure, you mentioned before, everybody's not cut out to be a homeschool parent. I'm certainly not. My children would run me. It would be, it would be chaos. So what we have and what's happening across America is parents are getting together and forming. In the States, they call them, during the pandemic, they call them pandemic pods. But
Yes.
these little micro schools
Yes.
where you may get a group of students of like-minded values or maybe like-minded interests, and their parents come together, pool their resources, and instead of having a building of several hundred or 1,000 students, you may have 20, 25 students. And they have, they hire one or two teachers in order to facilitate learning, with a much lower student teacher ratio than they would get in school, at a much lower cost. And the teacher is actually better compensated in that model, because you're getting rid of all of the extra things, that cost the school so much money. Here in the UAE, what we did, we developed a learning center program. And this has been going on for 10 years, the learning center program. And it was a way for students to get the personalization and flexibility that goes with homeschooling,
Okay.
but with professional tutoring at the same time, and professional coaching and support. The Learning Center program, after the pandemic, we decided to reinvent it, reimagine it, if you will. I put together a panel. I decided that the one thing we needed to do is, we didn't need to turn to education experts in consultations. I wanted to turn to parents and hear, what do you need? What are you looking for in an education? I wanted to hear from students and say, what is it that would really make the education experience fulfilling and rewarding for you? And so that's what we did. We held a series of town hall meetings and focus groups and took all their suggestions. Some of the suggestions that came out of it were, um, we love doing science online, but we wished that we had a hands-on way of
Oh.
bringing these things to life. So we built a STEM lab. So
Ooh.
students can do their science online, but when it comes time to doing something hands-on, they can actually come in, and we have a full-time science person who's there to sort of support them and guide them through their science experience. So they're getting the best of both worlds,
And
and
it's,
it's a
it's
wonderful experience.
it's funny you say that. So one, it's very much like college where you take the science class together, then
Yeah.
you have your lab time. And two, when I was in Miami teaching, I did something similar. I was like, let me just ask the students, like, we started doing that hybrid. So the ones that would come back, and I was like, do you want to be back? And a lot of them said to me, it's so funny because they're about to say something crazy. They say, no disrespect. I'm like, oh no, what are y'all about to say? But they said, no disrespect. We would like to have English and social studies online.
Mm,
And
isn't
we
it?
would like to come into the building for math and science because they said we feel like we need to be one on one and we need the teacher right there assisting us. And we
Yeah.
want to do the labs. And
Wow.
that correlates exactly with what you're saying. Like this, one thing I do know about you is that you're going to go ask the people who you are affecting. Like, I know that's one thing about you. You're going to have a panel. You're going to ask questions. You're going to talk to the parents. You're going to speak to the students to better your business and
Yeah.
better your business practices. And that's something I've always known about you.
Yeah, and it
Like,
just
I don't need
dawned on
to,
me when you made that comment that I met you at one of our
yeah,
receptions.
that's how we met. And you're like, I don't need to hire. I mean, of course, I know you read the statistics. I know you read all of
Sure.
the things, but you're like, no, let me just go talk to the people that I'm
Yeah,
working with and I'm working for.
yeah.
What do you need from us? And I think that's amazing. One, that we listen to the clients, our students and our parents.
Mhm.
They're adults, they're guardians. Like, what is education for you? What do you
Right.
need from us? I saw that happening when we were in COVID. And
Mhm.
as a disruptor, as a
Yep.
dismantler, as a maverick in education, I was excited. I was like, yes, they're going to start listening and we're going to change. And as quick as it opened up, the traditionalists, as I call them,
Yeah.
came and closed the door here in America.
Mhm.
And it's not all the way closed, but it's like some of us have that foot in the door, but I can feel my foot breaking.
Yeah.
Like I can feel it trying to shut it.
Yeah.
And I am beginning to start working with micro schools, with parents, with
Yeah.
pods. And my question to you is,
Mhm.
what's the economic advantage or disadvantage of not just iCademy, but of us giving parents and students an alternative to traditional education?
Well, I think the economic advantage for school systems is that you're able to leverage technology and really save a lot of money. Uh, we're still operating off of, again, a very antiquated education model with the teacher needing to teach every little thing when we're teaching to a classroom of digital natives, who would rather watch a video and learn about it through reading and through their own exploration, as opposed to just having someone lecture to them. So I think that we save a lot of money that way. It also opens the doors and expands what you're able to offer. Here at iCademy, not only do we have a general, I guess, what you would call basic curriculum, Common Core curriculum, but we have a whole suite of career focused electives, everything from veterinary science to agri-science to nursing to culinary arts. And so children can sort of get a taste of what they may want to, you know, pursue as a career, while they're still in high school. And so that sort of informs what university they would like to go to, and really opens up an entire new world. And we find that by having courses that match students' interests, it motivates and inspires even some of the most reluctant children to just stay focused and stay in school a little bit longer. Financially, for parents, online schooling is a fraction of the cost of
Yes.
public school. So in the States, of course, public education is free.
Right.
Here, of course, it's everything is for pay.
Yes.
But even as far as school systems, you really have to look at the cost of how much it costs to educate a child and how going to a blended model would save a lot of money. And that's what Pansophic is able to show schools in the States. It's working out.
I love it. And I think that's one of the things that we're seeing here. Even I'm in the state of Tennessee. They are still going back and forth about the voucher. It
Hmm.
was opened, about 7,000 families signed up immediately. And then it kind of like going back and forth with a court case. But one of the things we saw was that, okay, you got a voucher, it's about $7,000, but the private schools are about $13,000 to $15,000. So if you are already in an economic disadvantage,
Hmm.
thank you for the 7,000, but it doesn't help. Like I still cannot move my child into a school that I think is much better for him or her academically. And
Yeah.
so that's when we have amazing programs and amazing businesses like iCademy, where we can look at that and use that voucher and see, it's closer to match than that 14, 15. Because I was looking at it and I remember hearing it and I was excited. And then I started Googling, like just here in Memphis, private schools. And I said, oh, they missing some money. Like, this is not going to help. So my next question is, you talked about blended hybrids, and just I love how you explain a plethora of students that need and can use iCademy.
Sure.
Walking forward, we're in this weird place in education
Yeah.
here in the States, and I even know there because I get the job announcements that
Hmm.
we don't have teachers.
Yeah. Exactly.
We don't have professional educators that are willing to come back into the classroom or administration. There's an administration gap also.
Yep.
Bus drivers. We don't have cafeteria workers. We don't have people who are willing to come back into the school building for whatever reasons. And it's a plethora of reasons. We can't narrow it down because each person's experience is different. But
Yep.
moving forward, what would be 3 things you could give us as educators or as parents to implement to improve the education of our scholars or students?
Very good question. Um, I think number one is flexibility, and let's get back to putting students at the center of their education experience.
Yes.
There are many students, charismatic, talented, bright students who should be thriving in the classroom, that are dropping out and having their contributions devalued all the time because we're sticking to this one size fits all model. And when it's so unnecessary in 2022. Um, So if we can get back to putting students at the center, whatever that means, we have students right now at iCademy in the Knowledge Hub who don't need to be in school five. They don't need to be confined to the building 5 days a week. So we offer 2 day, 3 day, and 5 day options to meet their needs. And we find that by reducing their time in class to 3 days, that we're getting so much more productivity out of them by just giving them that extra time because that meets their learning needs. So that's number one, putting students at the center. I would say number two behind that would be to make sure that you have content that's relative and relevant, rather, in 2022.
Mm.
I'm noticing that a lot of school systems are starting to implement courses such as financial literacy,
Mhm.
which we had them in the 70s. We called it home economics, and I don't know what happened. But
We
but
did.
yeah, but to get back to that, by the time I graduated in the 80s, you show up on college campuses and you might have, they had the booths from Citibank and all the different banks trying to give you your first credit card, and no one had taught you. So we're up in Red Lobster every destroying our credit at 19 years old.
Yep.
So getting back to empowering our young people with courses that are going to help them not only educate, in the traditional education way, but help them in life and really empower them for life. I think is really important in showing them the what well. And I think the third thing is we've got to get back to getting parents more involved in the academic process. Um, I don't know how we do that, but we've got to do that. I know here, even though we're an online school, we have figured out a way. We have a parent association.
Yes.
We have an advisory board. We're regularly doing focus groups, and we're leveraging this 12,000 square foot learning center called Knowledge Hub to have events on a monthly basis where we invite entire families to come in. So we have two types of students. We have online only students, and then we have students who actually come into the facility, Knowledge Hub. And instead of mom sitting at the kitchen table with the student or dad sitting at the kitchen table, they actually come in and we have professional coaching. But regardless whether a student is sitting at home or whether they are showing up, everybody gets invited to our activities because we want to keep the entire family involved. And I think we need to get back to that. We need to involve families in education. I think for too long we were almost trying to exclude parents because the educators knew it all.
Mhm.
And we've got to get away from that. It's got to be a collaboration, a partnership with families and educators working together for the betterment of students.
Wow. Thank you. Like I know you saw me looking away, but I'm taking notes. 'Cause I was like, wait a minute. So we need to be flexible.
Yes,
We need to, um, and this one touched my spirit. Relevant content
yes,
for the students that are in front of us. I
absolutely.
cannot stress that enough. And then number three, we need to go back and involve parents, guardians, and as my kids say, they're adults, um,
Yeah,
into the education of the students. Because, like, one of the things I believe, education starts at home, but also believe the village mentality. And that's what
yeah.
you're speaking about, the village mentality, where
Village
I need
mentality.
the parent needs me, I need the
Yep.
community person, I need the synagogue, I need the mosque, I need
Mhm.
the church, I need
Yep.
the supermarket. I need everybody to be involved in the community because the students are part of the community and I want them to grow and thrive and then work in the community,
Absolutely. That's
build in the community, be entrepreneurs in the community. Like, I want you to go away, come back, and let's make it work. And
absolutely.
that's how it's supposed to be.
It is.
I like that. So here we have a new segment, season four.
Uh-oh.
Every season I have a different segment. So this season, this segment is called Controversial Corner.
Oh.
So I know I love it. So I take what's happening in the world. I was like, I don't know what's happening overseas as much, but I know what's happening in America. And
Okay.
you touched on something that I want to go back to. And the controversy here in America is that we have
Hmm.
a small number, but a large voice of parent adults
Hmm.
who want to ban everything.
Hmm.
And what do you feel about that? And when I say want to ban everything, the other day they actually banned, oh gosh, what's the Anne Frank's diary? The Diary of Anne Frank.
Oh,
They
wow.
banned it. And then I know where you are, and that's not something that's discussed anyway.
Yeah.
But that is cultural. That is the culture of the area. But here in
Mhm.
America, that is not the culture of America.
Right.
We discuss it. We have museums about it because we really can't
Sure.
process it like we should because we're in America.
Absolutely.
How do we? Um, what do we do with that? Because we literally have people that are taking out books where they're black and brown children after we fought so long. They're
Hmm.
taking out books about Muslim children, how we're trying to make sure our students have a understanding of cultures and diversity so that there's no hate, so
Yeah.
there's no discrimination. And we want to do that through books and literacy. And so
Absolutely.
the controversy is here. How does a small group with a loud voice ban um, the progress is what we're making? So what should we do as parents or as educators?
Uh, I think going back to point number three is getting parents involved in large masses. And you're right. I think that this is a small minority of very loud voices that
Mhm.
have pretty much hijacked one of our two great political parties and are using the narrowing of intellectual curiosity and pursuits and literacy, for instance, as a wedge issue, to push an agenda politically. And that's a shame because the children are the ones that are ultimately going to miss out. And so I think it's just going to require parents that really want to see a sound education. And I think this is really important. I'm glad you raised this topic because the political conversation in America and the discourse has reached a point to where it's almost crippling and paralyzing progress. And living globally and attending conferences all the time, you remember you were here.
Yes.
Um, the rest of the world is catching America and wondering where you are, where we are in the race. We had a huge, huge head start, post-industrial revolution and everything. And the rest of the world is catching us. They really
And
are.
passing. They're catching
They're,
and
they're
passing.
really catching up. I was at a conference a couple of years ago, and I was at one of the breakout sessions, and I was sitting in a room having a conversation with people from all over the world, and I didn't realize until late in the meeting that I was the only native English speaker in the room. Everybody in that room was from China or India or somewhere else, but they spoke perfect English as if they were in the U.S., as if they were born and raised in America.
Mhm.
And they have sound education systems, and they're thriving, and they don't let their politics get in the way of their pursuits for excellence. And we've got to stop the petty bickering and make sure our children are getting a proper education, and we're going to have a long way to go. Um,
Yes. I like how you said that. I like how you said other countries. And we know other countries get involved in their politics. They're fighting in Congress. Like they literally have whole fist fights.
yeah,
But I like how you said they leave that over there and
yeah,
they educate their next generations accordingly to
absolutely.
be global, to be global citizens. Because
Absolutely.
that's what they're producing.
They are. They really, and that's what it's going to take in order to thrive and prosper in the next generation. You've got to be able to talk to people from other parts of the world. We're going to be dependent on one another more and more. This
Wow.
isolationist mentality is not going to get Americans anywhere.
And it's so funny because they ask like, do you have a passport? And they're very interested and intrigued. And the first thing I told them, I said, as soon as you turn 18, save up your money from your job and get
Mm,
your passport.
yes.
And I said, and if before 18 you're at a school that they say, hey, you can study abroad, or we're taking a trip and you can
Mhm.
go for 2 weeks and stay in Italy, or I don't care where you're going,
Sure.
sign up
Yep.
and go. And they were like, we're scared to fly on a plane. But it was interesting because you said that, like our students but I don't see international students as often as I did back in the day. Like, and I feel like now it's easier to travel.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So that's something I'm going to look at. But you gave me a lot of stuff to add to my plate on what I need to be doing here in America. So we're going to have a second conversation
Well,
about.
I'll put an offer out to your listeners. If you have any listeners in education in the United States, and if you have a class or elementary or middle school students who may want to learn more about Dubai, um, I'm sure I have students here that would like to learn more firsthand about what's going on in America. And so, if we can arrange, you remember the old-fashioned pen pal programs where you buddy up with somebody and have to wait 3 weeks for your letter to come in the mail. So now we can instantaneously, set up a system where maybe children can arrange to get a pen pal, and set up some type of mode of communication. I would certainly be willing to entertain something like that. I think it will be a very enriching experience.
Right. And we definitely could do that because then they can do, we can go on, they can do Flipgrid, which is like monitored by the teachers.
Sure.
They can do
Yeah.
videos back and forth. The teachers monitor everything, just, to ensure children's
Yeah.
safety. But I love that. And yes, if Spring Bird from Australia is out there listening to me, hey girl, that was my pen pal in 6th grade. And I still have the letters. Like when you said it, I was like, that was like I still have Australia on my list to go see because the things she sent me and what we talked about, I was like, I'm going to Australia one day. I'm going to find Spring Bird, probably not, and see what's going on. So we're going to get ready to wrap up. Thank you, but we have a couple of more questions.
Okay.
Here it is. I started the Education Concierge business and podcast because my friends are like, girl, if it's about education and we need to know about it or we need to collaborate, we can call you. And you're like a concierge, like back in the day at a hotel where we would check in and they were like, I want Broadway shows. I want, to get into this restaurant, and the concierge would handle it. Call up to your room or you would come back down and everything was handled. So money is not an option.
Wow.
Where would you go or see? What play would you see? What restaurant would you go to? What country would you travel to? And why?
Wow. There's a lot there.
Yes.
Is this bucket list or romantic or just pretty
Whatever,
much?
it's up to you. Whatever you want it to be.
That is a very, very good question. And I think I would answer, I don't think there's any greater experience than a night in Dubai. I would stay at the Amani inside of Burj Khalifa. I would book tickets to a show at the Dubai Opera House. And I would have dinner. Have dinner right there at the Amani. They have a couple of very good restaurants inside of that. Yeah, that would be my evening.
All right, there it is. That is, I love that, and it's always funny because I love the guests. Sometimes they do romantic. Sometimes they like. One guest, he was like, "I'm going to go back to when I met her." And we were at this little restaurant somewhere in Mexico. It was like a hole in the wall. And I was like, oh my gosh, so I love that. Those of you who do not know, I'm going to put in the show notes Burj Khalifa and where he's talking about, and you'll Google it and you'll understand why he asked me would I pay the bill. But I love that. And I ask that because it always gives us your family an insight to who you are. I know who you are, but it gives us an insight to who you are, the opera. And I know people like opera in Dubai. Yes. It's amazing. And so if those of you who ever get an opportunity or chance, do not go during Ramadan.
Oh.
Do not go during the summer months because it is the desert. Okay.
Very hot right now.
Yes. But please go and do what the locals do. Don't just do what the tourists do.
No.
Do what the locals do.
Contact Benita before you come, and I will be more than happy to arrange some activities.
Yes, and that's true because I've had some sorority sisters and some people that I grew up with who knew I was there, and I was like, oh, when you go, and then I would contact them with different people in their age group because some of them were younger, and I was like, oh wait, let me find some young people, and some of them were our middle grown age, and I was like, okay, but I love that. This is how we wrap it up. You're going to let us know how we can contact you through social media.
Okay.
Everybody knows I contact people through LinkedIn. I slide in DMs professionally. I'm not trying to hook up people in LinkedIn. Slide into people's DMs professionally if you want to contact them. And it's 2022, so we do not ask for discounts or favors. If they're
Okay.
offering a service, you're going to pay for it. Okay.
Wonderful.
So tell us how we can connect with you through social media.
Well, I'm on LinkedIn. Jeffrey Smith is my profile name. I'm on Facebook, Jeffrey Mustafa Smith, and that's pretty much all. I think I do. Oh, I do have Instagram, Jeffrey underscore Mustafa.
Okay. But he is always on LinkedIn, y'all. So that's where you need to go. Go to
Yeah.
LinkedIn. And then I am a good old Baptist church girl. With the Little Shallow Baptist Church on Otterdam Road in Emporia, Virginia. And like any guest, the head pastor has opened, he's given what do we give, the ending of the service and open the doors of the church. But you, since you are a guest, you get to close the service out. So however you want to close the service out, my guests have had prayers, we've had poems, we've had words of inspiration, we have had, 2 fingers in the air, we don't care, like whatever, however you want to end it. And
I have a plea.
you have a
I
plea.
have a plea for my family and friends near and broad across the United States of America. I have lived in the UAE now, the United Arab Emirates, for going on 15 years. I have a 12 and 14-year-old daughter who barely know America except for what they see on social media. And unfortunately, all they see is the racism, the police beatings, the Karens, and the negativity, the ratchet behavior. And I know that there's so much more to America than that. So my plea is that we start to use social media not just to highlight and share negativity and destructive things, because these images are being viewed worldwide to the point where my children never have a desire to live in America. And I think that's a shame. And I know many, many expatriate families who feel the same way. And I know that there's so much more to America than that. So my plea to you is that we use social media more responsibly and start sharing inspirational stories, and stop sharing so much of things that we know are destructive and toxic. And let's work on putting a better image of America out there for the world.
Wow.
That's how I'd like to close it.
Thank you. One, thank you for taking time out of your day from your family to be on the Education Concierge podcast. I appreciate you just in general as a husband, as a Black man, but definitely appreciate you as a businessman and as an educator. So thank you for coming on my little podcast in this corner of Michelle Obama's internet. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, our podcast family, Mr. Jeffrey Smith, thank you.
Thank you.